Hey guys, it's Bailey and welcome back to the channel. This is going to be a video where I walk you through and give my thoughts, reviews of a lot of the new products e.l.f. has come out with recently. They sent me a box that had, I think, every shade of all the new products that they have, and so I want to run through those. It's taken me a while to get through them and really test them to where I feel like I can give you, share my thoughts. But in addition to talking about them, I will have demos and swatches and all that kind of stuff, because that is how I like to do these haul type overviews, is really include a lot of more meat about the products. So that's coming at you as well, but we do have a lot of ground to cover here, so I'm not going to pretend like this is going to be a short video. It's going to contain a lot of short, concise reviews, hopefully, but it's probably not going to be short. So get a snack, grab a drink, let's get into it. First up is their foundation palette. This retails for $6. I love this kind of packaging because it has a really nice, maybe it'll stay up, a nice big mirror in here that I actually use in lieu of the mirror that I typically use when I do my makeup. It's big enough to actually be practical, so I do like this packaging, and in theory this is one of those where the individual pans pop out. So as you can see here, there are 4 different foundation shades that you can mix and match. I tend to use the 3 here, the lightest in my under eye area, and then I have a combination of the mid-tones that I applied to the rest of my face. So in practice you will probably run out of 1 or 2 or 3 shades before the other, and so this kind of packaging allows you to put individual, pop individual pans out and just replace the 1 shade as opposed to having to repurchase the entire palette. But this is very similar to those blush palettes that they launched at least a year, maybe a year and a half ago, and I have still yet to see individual pans that you can pop in and out of there, so I'm not sure if that is coming for them on the horizon. Hopefully it is, because that would, to me, make this the perfect kind of packaging, especially for a foundation palette. But beyond the packaging, the product itself, this is a cream foundation palette, but the texture is definitely cream to powder. It's very smooth, it's not super thick, definitely layerable to, I would say, medium to full coverage. It's definitely not, flawless. It's not going to give you a completely blank canvas to work with, but it definitely gets the job done, and you can layer it up without it looking super cakey, which can sometimes happen with cream products that dry down to a more powdery finish. Once they've dried down, sometimes I'll find that it's really sunk into fine lines. It gives you that kind of powdery look. Really not the case with these, but it's only buildable to a certain extent. You can still definitely see, natural features like freckles and hyperpigmentation that I have, which, if you don't mind that, this is a great, like I said, medium to medium full coverage, but you are definitely still going to see some of those features. So it's a relatively natural coverage foundation. I think the fact that it dries down to that powdery finish gives it a ton of longevity, because I have combination skin. I tend to see most wear and tear down the center of my face when I wear foundation, and despite the fact that this was a cream formula, the fact that it dries down to a powdery finish, I think that helped it kind of wick away excess moisture throughout the day, because when you look at the before and after, beginning of the day towards the end, it was really, the wear was just awesome. I think, considering it's a $6 foundation palette, I thought the wear was phenomenal. So overall, whether you're wanting something super simple, quick, and easy to dab on just specific areas like your under eye, even at your complexion overall, or you want to build it to something a little bit more and you want a natural but demi-matte finish, this is a super affordable, very versatile option, because you have all of those shades within 1 palette. However, I think the major downside to this foundation palette collection as a whole is the shade range. So I have light medium. There are 3 different sets you can purchase: fair light, light medium, which is the one I have, and medium deep maybe. It's just like the darker next step up, and that's all there is. Typically I fall into the light fair range, so it's kind of a red flag to me that I am in the light. It makes me think this is not going to go very deep, so maybe those of you who have medium deep skin tones can weigh in the comments below. Let me know if this has worked for you, because just as a reference, it is worrisome to me that this is where I fall on the skincare spectrum, because typically I am pretty light. So that might be the one downside you encounter, is trying to find your shade match. Fortunately, $6 isn't a ton to spend, but it's still something you like to know before you place your order online, because as far as I know, these are not yet available in Walmart or Target or wherever else you can actually purchase e.l.f. in store. Next up for new products is the Perfect Finish HD Powder. There is only one shade, it is sheer, and basically this is the pressed equivalent of the, well, any HD powder. Any of those translucent, white, loose powders. This is the pressed version, and I will say so it comes in a compact where it has a sponge, you have your pressed powder, and then once again you have a really nice mirror here. But the first time I used this, I used the sponge to apply, and even though it says it's sheer, you will definitely get a white cast if you use the sponge. The sponge is a little too heavy, but if you use a normal powder brush to set, or even a kabuki, I use the kabuki brush that I applied my foundation with, and I didn't notice the coverage was too heavy there. It really is ultra finely milled, just like you would imagine a loose HD powder to be, but press, which I think is way more convenient. It's way less messy, you waste less product, but you press it on and it still is just ultra fine. It doesn't cake up your foundation. It helps it set and last all day. And it's only $6. So personally, I prefer this to any other loose HD setting powder I have encountered, whether it is high-end like Makeup Forever or affordable. I much prefer the set format, and there are some more affordable versions like this out there, but this one sticks out to me because the texture truly is most like that you'll find that is loose. The others, they don't provide like enough texture or stability when you're actually going in and setting your powder, whereas this one, it feels like there is product coming off, you are applying it, but it's really only acting to enhance the appearance of your makeup and the longevity of your makeup. It's not going to cake it up, and you don't have to really layer it on to feel like you're seeing or feeling any sort of effect, if that makes sense. It's just a really, it's the most effective, affordable form of pressed HD powder that I found, which is the long way of saying something very easy. Moving on to two new palettes, one of which is a bronzer palette and the other is a contour palette. Both of these come in the exact same format as the Studio blushes and the one that I just talked about, the foundation palette, where they have the removable squares, nice big mirror here. Overall, the packaging feels sturdy, and in theory, it's super simple to replace whatever shade you might need to replace, but as of right now, I'm not sure if that is actually feasible if they do make or sell these individually. So same sort of packaging, which could be a pro or a con, but as far as the product inside goes, in the contour palette, you have two, basically they're supposed to be highlight shades. One, they're both very sheer though, I would say, and so neither of them come off as a highlight for me. Both of them are more of a setting powder, and then you have two contour shades. One is sort of a lighter, more warm tone, and the other is a deeper, cooler shade. But this is the only shade range of contour, like this is the only contour palette they currently make like this. There isn't one for lighter skin, there isn't one for deeper skin. This is all you have to work with if you want to get a contour palette from e.l.f. So that I think is going to be kind of limiting. These are two really nice shades to have to contour with, but I do think that for $6 it's reasonable, but I do think there's a little bit of excess. Unless you plan on using these as setting powders, you might not get a whole lot of good out of them, because I personally don't find them super effective at highlighting. And so I'm not sure if it's worth even $6 to buy this if you're just gonna use the contour shades. And I assume you would only use one of the two. You'd effectively be buying it for one of the contour shades, which are nice. That is something that I should caveat all of this with, is that the powders are very smooth, they do apply very evenly, they don't muddy up your complexion, they do stay, you know, they aren't hard to blend despite being completely matte like a contour, like you'd want a contour powder to be. They lay really smoothly and evenly, but if when it comes down to it, you're only gonna use one of these powders, it's just something you might want to consider before you go purchasing it. And then, like I said, there is the whole shade. What could be an issue is if you are super fair, even this lightest shade might be a little deep for you, and then if you have medium deep skin tone, this might not show up on you as a contour at all. So also something to consider. This is not a must-have for me. Of the things I've talked about so far, love the HD powder and love the foundation palette, but this was not a total 100% would recommend it to anyone sort of win. The same, I hate to say it, goes for the bronzer palette. This just like the foundation and contour palette, you have 4 squares of different shades, all of which look very similar when you're looking at them from afar, at least as I see them in the viewfinder. I think you'll be able to tell the difference when you see them in swatches. There are variations in the undertones. Some of these are cool, some of them are a little warmer, and then 2 of the shades actually have a different kind of finish. One's more satin and one downright has some shimmer, like golden shimmer in it. So there are very subtle variations, but as far, when swatched at least, as far as applying them goes though, I don't notice much of a difference. I am wearing I'm wearing this top one over here on this side of my face, and then I'm actually wearing the one with the shimmer in it over here on the other side of my face, and I really don't feel like there is that much of a difference between the 4. Here again, you might run into the same issue as that I talked about with the contour palette, which is this is the only combination of 4 bronzers you can get. Like, this is the only configuration of bronzer palette that's available. Unlike, I think it's the Studio where it's 4 bronzers baked into one pan. There are 3 variations there that I do think give you a little bit more of a skin tone range. Like I said, these kind of look very similar when you actually apply them to the face anyway, and so I think this is gonna hit the mark mostly for light to medium skin tones. It's gonna be too dark for fair and too light for deep, so there's a sweet spot there in the middle that people might like this for. But as far as, I mean, e.l.f. has a ton of other great bronzers, whether you're looking for something matte, shimmery, satin, or any other finish that exists. So I'm not sure this is the one that I would recommend to you if you are looking for a good e.l.f. bronzer. And last up are my absolute favorite new launches from e.l.f. They are the eyeshadow palettes. They have launched 4 10-pan eyeshadow palettes. I believe they're under the Studio kind of collection. All they're really called, they're actually just called by the color collection they fall under. So first of which is Everyday Smoky. As you can see, it looks like a smoky eyeshadow palette. It sticks pretty closely to very cool neutral hues, but it has a nice shade range whether you're looking for the lighter tones all the way to the deeper, darker, ultra smoky tones. And with all of these palettes, there is a mix of textures, and I'm super, well, actually that's a lie. One of these is exclusively matte, which we will get to later, but the other 3 do have a mix of matte and satin and shimmery, and I'm super happy to say that each of the textures performs equally as well as the next, which is not always the case with an e.l.f., especially when you have matte textures, which are just hard to get right regardless of the brand, especially when you're making them super affordable. I was so impressed. These, like I said, these are the products that I am most excited about because they performed really well across the board. So this, like I said, is the Everyday Smoky, and you can look to this if you want those cooler, neutral, smoky tones. By the way, these do retail for $10 a piece, which are on the more expensive side for e.l.f. It puts you at about, or exactly, $1 a shadow. But something that I wanted to, or a comparison I wanted to draw, because it's literally the exact same packaging, is that the Prism eyeshadow palettes are also $10. However, with these, you only get 6 shadows, so you get more product per shade, but all of these are this super, they're beautiful, but there's no variance in texture, and they are all super shimmery and or metallic. So given the same price, you get less of a shade selection and less of a texture selection. So I do feel like, depending on your personal preferences, these new 10-pan eyeshadow palettes are going to offer a lot more versatility than the Prism eyeshadow palettes do. That being said though, these are gorgeous. I haven't talked about them recently, if at all, on this channel, but these are beautiful. That is if you love shimmery or foiled or metallic textures. If on the other hand you want to be able to use some mattes or satins for, you know, everyday workplace, those kinds of looks, these are the palettes that I would turn to because they are consistently awesome quality. So the other palette that they have, this is the one that I'm wearing today and the one I love most out of all of these. It's called Party Ready. I love it because there is such a wide range of color here. This is another one where bright colors are kind of hard to get right as far as texture and pigmentation goes. You can have the pigmentation, but then the texture might be a little iffy. It sticks in some places, just doesn't apply evenly. And I'm happy to say, like I said, this is actually the one I'm wearing today. So I have the bright purple in my outer corner. I have the pink across my lid, some of the copper here. You have enough neutrals that you could use this exclusively as a neutral palette, but then you could turn it into a nighttime look super easily with these very fun, plum and blue and pinks, and then really smoke it out with these deep navy and this black over here. So easily my favorite palette. Obviously it's not going to be for everyone because there are some very bright shadows here that definitely do deliver on the pigmentation and color payoff fronts. But if you are looking for a fun but affordable palette with a nice mix of neutrals and brights, this is one I would recommend. And again, it is the Party Ready palette. The next of these palettes is called Need It Nude. As you might assume, it is a nude palette, but like I said, it includes a mix of textures and shades. So you get this light mixture down here along with this deep dark smoky mixture. So this is basically like a naked palette equivalent minus a black shade. It really doesn't get too severe or dramatic, I guess I would say over here. It's like a deep matte smoky chocolate brown, but you are missing like the deepest darkest of the shade spectrum. Still, this would be a great go-to everyday neutral palette. Maybe that's why I'm least excited about this one, is because it feels like home base. Like it feels very safe, beautiful, but very safe. And of all the products or of all the eyeshadow palettes that have come out, this just seems like another neutral palette. But it still would be a great option if you're fine with living in the neutral zone. This is a great one to look to. And the last one is an all matte palette, because these are somewhat harder to come by, especially if they're affordable. And like I said, with this latest round of palettes, e.l.f. has done really well with nailing all of the textures, whether it's matte, shimmery, satin, glittery, whatever it is you're looking at. So naturally, these are, they're not, I wouldn't say they're buttery. They're not like IT Cosmetics Naturally Pretty. I think that's their all matte palette. They're not quite that smooth, but they aren't bad by any means. They really do get the job done. I flashed up a demo if I have enough time here. Otherwise, I might just turn it into an entirely separate tutorial. It was the look I was wearing in my recent Q&A, so you can go take a look, or maybe I'll put something up here where you can just see it in action. But this is the only palette that I was wearing, and once again, even though it's not a mix of textures, you do get some on the lighter end of the spectrum here and some on the dark. The one thing that I would have loved to see from this palette though was something more than mauve tones. This sticks to very cool neutrals and very mauvey, kind of plummy lighter tones, and I just would have loved to see a little bit more of a change up. So maybe in the future they'll come out with matte palettes that have different undertones, but that is the one thing that I would have liked to see from this palette. Otherwise, it acts as a great palette if you just want to stick to mattes, or they work as great blending colors as well. So like I said, would recommend all of their newest 10-pan shadow palettes across the board, evenly. Love them all, would recommend them all. So those are all of the new products. There were some new shades of products that they have since released, but I've talked about those lines before, like the matte lip crayons or pencils or whatever those are. They launched 3 new shades of those. I love that line. The new shades are no different. They're absolutely beautiful, as well as the Smudge Pot collection, which I have a review of. Love that line as well. And once again, the 2 new shades those released, which I actually posted pictures and swatches of on my Instagram account that you can go check out and follow me if you aren't already. And again, the quality of those is no different than the rest of the line, so I didn't feel like I wanted to include them in this video just to save on time. But just so you know, those are also out, and they are also just as, if you love the shades in the original collection, you will love the new shades that they have come out with of those as well. So I really hope this video was helpful. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'd love to hear what you think of all these products, if you've tried them, which you're looking forward to try the most. And thanks again for watching. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.